Hi, welcome to Love Saranghae with Peter and Andrea. In the next 30 minutes, we'll take you on a journey into the exciting world of entrepreneurship, relationships, and the secrets behind achieving that coveted glow. Are you ready? Let's go.
Welcome back to another episode of Love Saranghae with us, Peter and Andrea. Today's episode is a deeply personal one. Over the past year, Peter and I have both lost our fathers, just 2 months apart, but in very different ways. Peter's dad became ill and passed away 4 months after his diagnosis. My dad was healthy, vibrant, and active, and then one night, he had a massive stroke in his sleep and died a few days later. Two losses, very different journeys, and two very different relationships with our fathers. We are both grieving. Our children are grieving. And as a family, we are learning day by day how to carry this kind of pain while still showing up for life, for work, and for each other. Today's conversation isn't about having answers or moving on. It's about grief. How it shows up differently for each of us, how we process it in our own ways, how we keep going even when our hearts feel heavy, and how we're trying to support our children as they navigate such loss at a tender age. If you're walking through grief yourself or loving someone who is, we hope this episode makes you feel a little less alone.
I think this is going to be a pretty difficult one to get through, but I think a necessary one. Right?
Yeah. So before we dive in to the bigger conversation around grief, I think we should start by just talking about our dads. Like, what was the relationship we had with them? What did it look like? How did we lose them? And then what grief has looked like for each of us. You want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So as Andrea pointed out, my father died actually of stomach cancer end of October. So he passed away. He was diagnosed with his sickness early July, late June, and then basically starved to death because he could not put food down his stomach until he basically passed away at the end of October. So that was my dad. And he was 77 years old. He was pretty healthy beforehand. And then after the diagnosis, it declined slowly at first and then declined very rapidly afterwards.
Yeah.
In a sense, I think it was the way he passed away allowed us to say goodbye to him and allowed him to say goodbye to us. So in a sense, that was really interesting because we had conversations that we've never really had before, my father and I. And I can get into that a little bit later on. And so it allowed us to basically air out a lot of our grievances, a lot of what we thought about each other or what I thought, about my dad. And then he was able to say goodbye in his own way to the rest of the family as well. So we actually had a Thanksgiving dinner with all of us, with the family, which was only about a week before he passed away. So in a sense, it was kind of meant to be that way. It was hard watching him decline from July to October because, again, he basically starved to death. He was not in pain because the tumor did not touch any of his nerve cells. But because the tumor was in his stomach or his cancer was in his stomach, he could not digest food or food could not go down his stomach. And he didn't want the intervention either. So early on, he basically said, this is the way I want to go. And we respected that. But he just lost weight slowly at first and very rapidly near the end, where he was down from like 170 pounds all the way down to I think it was like almost 90 pounds near the end. It was skin and bones. And he had some highs. He had, like many cancer patients that I've talked to, the families of cancer patients, he had highs and lows. There were some days where he thought he could beat it. And there were some days where he questioned, why he was alive at all, or questioned the existence of God. Yeah. And the final thing I want to say is that, look, my father and I had some really good talks near the end. And I love my father because he is my father. But that doesn't excuse what the lack of, fatherly love that I did not experience from my father for decades on end. right? So he was not a great dad. I mean, to be completely honest, he was, absent in most of the time. He was angry most of the time. And I can't blame the man for being that way, only simply because in Korea, that's just how you are as a man. You go to a military, you go through these experiences that just basically make you into an emotionless automaton. And when my brothers and I needed that love and attention from him, we just never got it. And so we're missing a lot of that. And, being here in Canada with a family that is my wife's side of the family that is Middle Eastern, I see the affection and the love of how that can be. And we never had any of that stuff. So it's, I always say that my father is a man that my biggest fear is that I become a man like my father. So all throughout my life, I look at his experience, his example, and say, how can I be the opposite of what my father did? And that's really the guiding light that I use. My father-in-law, though, Andrea's dad, Huss, was a man that was if I could be half the man that Huss was, I think I could be a man that I'd be proud of, because he was pure class in all sense of the word. Grace was a word that I think a lot of his friends used at his celebration of life. Just kind, generous, never judging. So, in a sense, I lost the man that I didn't want to become like, but I lost the man that I wanted to become like. So it was a really, really interesting dichotomy of the two fathers that we lost. And
it's interesting how
that's it.
God or universe, or whatever you want to call it, sets things up in life in a way where you didn't really have the example of a dad that you wanted, but then you did still have one in my dad in some ways.
Yep.
And you had some good years with him, maybe 13 years, was it?
Yeah, 13 years.
Well, my situation was very different. My dad was a very healthy, strong person. He was, the night before he had his stroke, he was golfing with my son. It was one of their favorite things to do. They were at my dad's golf club. Shout out to Bayview Golf and Country Club here in Toronto. And they were having the best time. My son had a lesson, and then after, him and my dad played their favorite course. I think it was Yellowstone for anyone who's a golfer. And they didn't want to leave. And I had to pull them off the simulator because it was like after 9 o'clock and it was time for bed. Had I known that would have been the last time we got to spend with my dad, I would have let them play forever. But anyway, the next morning, just before 6 a.m, we got a call that my dad had a massive stroke through the night, and I needed to come to the hospital right away. And so I did, and I saw him, and he did not look in a good way. It was very hard to see him that way, especially knowing my dad. He's a very proud man, always dressed well, always stood up tall and straight, and to see him in such a vulnerable position with tubes everywhere, it was really hard to see. But in that moment, I really believed that he'd be okay, because I couldn't imagine him not being okay. He was healthy. He did all of his tests, his blood work, all of his, general checkups, and everything came back perfect. So I don't really know. We still don't know what actually happened aside from it was a massive stroke. So a few days after that, so that was Tuesday morning, and then Friday afternoon, he passed away. And I remember being in the hospital and the doctors telling me, bad news after bad news. His brain is just, there's nothing they could do. And slowly his brain was just, more and more of his brain was dying. And my dad was a really big man of the mind. And so I really wanted to believe that somehow he was going to will his brain to get better and fix itself or something. And the doctors wanted us to pull the tubes quite quickly. Tuesday, he had this stroke, and by Wednesday, they were telling us we need to pull. He's not going to make it. And I didn't have the heart to do that to him. I wanted him to decide on his own what he wanted to do. So we waited a couple of days, and he did. But I think the hardest part for me was that he wasn't sick. There was nothing wrong. We were together the night before. And then it happened in the middle of the night. So we don't really know, like, how long he was there. Was he trying to call for help and nobody knew? Was it like, there's a lot of questions that I'll never have answered just because of the nature of it. And I never, ever, ever, ever thought that my dad would be the one to go. I always thought we'd have at least 15 more years with him. I hoped for that anyway, so. But in terms of relationship, my dad and I were weirdly close. Like, I spoke to him every single day at least once. He was, everything to me. He was so special to me, to my family. My kids adored him. And he was just, a real parent. Like, he took care of all of us. He wanted to be the protector and the provider and the caregiver and all the things all the time if we let him. And so losing him made me feel like I lost my parent. I felt a little bit, the word I used to describe it was like orphan. I felt like an orphan. Yeah. And I no longer had that person,
I touched a lot of people for sure. I think we had over 400 people that visited and paid their respects over at the celebration of life. Yeah. And everybody, there was... he was a man that made no enemies, and he was a man that turned enemies into friends.
He would make an enemy with himself, but he'd make it with anyone else.
Yeah, he's just that kind of guy, right? Yeah. That was just that kind of guy. Very rare. Murad was a rare man. We don't see many people like him this day and age, and definitely he'll be sorely missed.
What have you learned? I guess, what are we learning about respecting each other's timelines and grief and the way that we grieve? Yeah. Because I think Peter and I, we're somewhat similar, but we're also different. Like, for me, if I had the choice, I would like to just never get out of bed, and I just want to cry and be in my bed and just sort of be a useless potato for a couple of days. But I haven't had that chance because we have children. And our children are grieving. My children are so devastated. They not just lose one grandpa, they lost two, who they adored and who adored them. So it's one of those things where you have to sort of put your own grief away or put it somewhere so that you can be there for them, but without removing the sadness, so they don't think something's wrong with them for being sad.
Yeah, it's a complex sense? Yeah, it's a complex situation, right? Because there is no right or wrong way to process grief and to show grief. And every culture has a different way of dealing with grief and what is acceptable, what is not. What is acceptable, what is not is up to us, but cultures and people around seem to have a viewpoint on that. So that is what it is what it is. I lost my younger brother when I was 28 years old. And that was very, very hard because it was unexpected. It was not through natural causes. And I was too young. I was young. That was my first major loss of the people around me, and it was my younger brother. So there was a lot of complexity, emotional complexity around losing a younger brother so early on in life. It took me years to get over Jason's death, mostly because I think I thought I could be a better brother. I thought I had more time to be a better brother, but I really wasn't. And I didn't know how to process that grief initially. So what happened to me was, I allowed my grief to wallow. So my 4 years, I think, after his death, his passing, was almost like a haze where I wasn't in depression, but I had a lot of apathy about life. So the whole idea of like moving forward, having ambition, or, doing things that would benefit me, all that kind of went out the window because none of it really mattered anymore to me. I kind of just existed for 4 years. And so this time around, though, I realized that I didn't want to wallow in that grief because it was not going to be beneficial for my children, for you, my wife, for anybody around me, for a 52-year-old grown man to wallow in grief for days on end. So that's a decision that I definitely had with myself, or a conversation I had with myself. But what I did in the first time when my brother passed away, and also now, is the way I handle my grief is just basically look at a to-do list and like a robot go through them.
Yeah.
That's it.
How I feel. You're like a robot.
Yeah, just a robot to go through the daily functions of life, to keep my mind and my body busy. That was it. That's how I deal through grief. Because if I wallow in grief, it can lead to a pretty dark place. So I just don't let myself go that deep.
Yeah. So this is my first. Losing my dad was the hardest loss I've ever experienced. It's the closest one to me, and it was the worst one. And truthfully, I always used to say that I could handle losing anyone, but not my dad. Like, I don't know if I could survive losing my dad. But then the way that he died, and there was nothing I could do about it. I did everything I could. And then I got into like planning mode. Like, okay, where would he want to be buried? Where would I want him to be buried? How would he want us to celebrate his life? Who would he want there? And I just got into this like operations mode where things needed to get done, and I was going to get them done because I wanted them done my way.
Yeah, of course.
And they had to be done quickly. So my stepmom and I really worked together to do our best to execute in the best way that we could. But what I found really hard is that I didn't really process anything. And then what would happen is at night, when everyone went to bed, I would start thinking like, something good happened. And I want to share it with him because he was the person I'd share the good things with. And the bad, but all the good things. Even if he didn't even understand it, I was just so excited to tell my dad. I wanted him to be proud of me. So, I don't know. I found it really hard to process it in the moments after. And I felt like everybody was looking to me because I'm an only child. And everyone knew that my dad and I were just like soulmates. We were like one split pea, as they would say. Instead of two peas in a pod, we were the same pea split in half.
You are definitely your father's daughter, that's for sure.
And so everybody was looking to me to see how to be. And if I was okay, then they could be okay too. And if I wasn't okay, then they would fall apart too. And I wanted to be that strength. And I wanted to be that for my dad, for my kids, for you. But I need to feel it, and I haven't fully felt it yet.
What was interesting to me as I observed you, and also what happened to me in the past, is that people who don't know how to behave or how to react, they let their emotions go, and then we feel the need to absorb those emotions and become the pillar.
Yeah.
And that's hard.
That's hard.
Right? It drains us. It at the end of the day, it's exhausting because I'm trying to, you and I both, we're trying to manage these negative or these grief emotions that are coming from everyone, from 400 people are, telling us how much they loved your father, how much they miss him, and then they're crying and they're hugging. And it's like, after a while, it's like, I just don't have enough to give. It's, that energy core that I had is all gone now.
Yeah.
And
I wish I knew. One of the things I said at the end of that is I wish I knew how to clear energy from my body. Yeah. Because I felt like the headache I had at the end of that day was
heavy.
Massive.
Yeah, it's heavy. We're still recovering. My eczema exploded about a week and a half ago, and it hasn't calmed down yet. Actually, what happens is my eczema explodes when the stress levels are high, and then it starts to go down a little bit. The body relaxes, and then eczema and everything else.
That's how like people get sick after like a stressful situation. It's like finally they're allowed to be sick.
Yeah.
I think the point here, though, is that there's no right way to grieve.
No.
And I think from our experience is keeping busy to some extent is good, but also creating space to be alone and to be with your emotions and allowing the emotions to come and not try to push them away, just letting them move through you. I think
it's a perfect example.
I think it's all okay. Like, it's all good for you. And it's like, I don't want to just drown in my grief. I don't want that. I know my dad wouldn't want that. Your dad wouldn't want that. But I also want to acknowledge the profound loss.
Yeah.
that they were?
Well, I mean, 24 years after I lost my brother, my younger brother, I will say that it does get better. So, there are instances where my brother and I were very close, by the way. We lived together for a long time. And we've started a business together, or 2 businesses together. So we were very, very close. And in the beginning, everything would remind me of my brother, right? Like we go to a grocery store, I see a pizza from that he used to like, or an ice cream flavor that he used to like. And it brought back memories that were very hard to deal with.
They still do that. You still think of those things.
Oh, I do, but it's different now. Now when I look at it, when I get reminded of Jay, it's a happy reminder of the kid that he used to be, right? And I still get choked up over some of these things, but the overwhelming thought now is that if I believe that there is life after death, and that somehow our fates and our souls will be intertwined in the afterlife in some way. So, if you believe truthfully in that mantra, or that's how, death and life are intertwined, then fear kind of goes away. And then there's other things to look forward to, I guess, after death. So
I think I would agree that losing my dad has made me less afraid of death.
Yeah, that
because
makes sense.
Before my dad, I was very, very, very afraid. Like I didn't want to go to the cemetery even just to go for a walk. I wanted no part of it. And now that I've lost him, I feel safer in transitioning one day. Because I feel like he'll be there waiting for me. At least I hope so.
Yeah. So
if that makes sense.
It does.
If that makes sense, yeah.
And so,
but I understand now a little bit more of how you used to say that about your brother.
Yeah. It changes you. It does change. Yeah. It changes profoundly in how you look at things.
Yeah.
For sure.
What about our kids? So a lot of people have been asking us about the children because they've not lost one grandpa, they've lost 2. And beyond that, we've lost several other close friends in our life in 2025. And so the kids have been constantly bombarded with conversations around death. And it's bringing up a lot of things in them. Like Marcus, for example, my oldest son, I have ulcerative colitis. And he asks me every single day, how's my stomach, if I'm feeling better, if it's getting better, what did I do today to take care of my stomach? And I realize that he's afraid that something's going to happen to me. And my daughter, Maya, the little one, my cousin was sick. She had a cold. And she overheard Peter and I talking about her being sick. And Maya said, is Auntie going to die? And I said, gosh, no, why? Why would you say that? Not making the connection. And she said, because everybody who's sick is dying.
Yeah.
And so they're definitely, in their own way, trying to figure out how this happened, especially to my dad, because my dad was very healthy and they had just spent time with him and he's fine. So how could he be dead now? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah. The good thing about my daughter is that at 4 years old, she's pretty vocal with what she's feeling. Like this morning, she was drawing Jitdo and Mama, or Jitdo, her grandpa, into a sticky note and then putting it on doors, going, "This Jitdo will protect us," right? So she thinks of it in a different light than we do. Her grief is, I don't know if she's grieving or not, but it's less emotional and more curiosity, it looks like. And I don't know if this will manifest itself differently later on. But Marcus, on the other hand, I think he's internalizing it a little bit, and it comes out in spades. But again, at 9 years old, he has times when he's distracted by, video games or candy or
it's fine. Family members.
I think they'll be okay. I think they're resilient. I think they'll be okay. I think they have a mother and father that care and that are pretty strong, and we handle grief in different ways. So they can see that no direction of handling a grief is the right or wrong one, and then we do the best we can. I don't really have answers.
I don't have answers. Neither of us do, and I think that's the challenge: is that we're navigating our own grief while trying to navigate theirs. Yeah. It's a very uncharted territory for us. We're not familiar with how to do this properly. But at least I have been asking experts and trying to get information so that I can sort of piece things together for my kids. And one thing with Marcus, I know for sure, is he wants time to talk out loud and just process. And some days he'll just cry his eyes out before bed, and other days we'll just share a funny story about Grandpa, and then that'll be fine. But now he has pictures of my dad beside his bed, and he kisses them every night, kisses them every morning. Sometimes I hear him talking to my dad, because I told him he's everywhere and he can hear. So I also want him to see me sad when I feel sad, and to understand that it's okay to be sad, but it's also okay to be happy when you feel happy too, and you don't need to feel guilt around that. Because of course, Grandpa doesn't want you to be sad. He wants you to get on with your life and live well and remember all of his teachings and try your best to live, an honest life of integrity and so on. So I don't know. I don't have answers, but this is basically what we've been sort of moving through.
One day at a time. I think the important thing is that we're not trying to get to a promised land here. We're not trying to reach a certain destination of, if you go there, everything will be okay. Because we both know that that's not the case. This is a process that we have to go through every single day. And every day, I think it gets a little better. Some days are worse.
Yeah, it's not a straight line.
It's not a straight line. But time moves on. The world may stop for us, but the world goes on for everyone else. Yeah. The sun rises in the morning and the sun sets in the evening, no matter what happens.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, we have to be able to get on that merry-go-round sometime and get on with the sunrise and the sunset. Yeah. And it's okay to take some time off from it, but the world moves on without us, with or with us, so without us. So we're going to have to just keep moving forward one day at a time. That's really it.
What ways do you feel that this big season in our lives is reshaping our perspective on life, presence, love, and what really matters? What is that for you?
I think death always, a big event like this, especially death of a loved one, definitely puts things into perspective, right? Like my buddy Jesse, when he passed away, especially before he passed away, he basically eschewed everything that he believed in life, all these goals, all these things that nice cars, nice clothes, big house, not all of these things that he used to value went out the window. And for 2 years, he kind of practiced his life the way that really meant was important to him. And that's, I think, the lesson that I want to keep in my heart is we both, me especially, I want to make it a habit to just keep peeling back the layers of onions at all times, or at least often throughout the year, to really ask ourselves, what is the important thing? What is really important and what is not? What is superfluous stuff that surrounds us? And live our lives according to that, right? Like the next time I feel that the vacation is too expensive, maybe I should remind myself that I'm next year I'm 50, I'm turning 52. I'm not going backwards in life. I've got maybe 40 years left, 40 summers left, and I should enjoy. So. Yeah. And I should enjoy each summer doing the things that we want to do and spend time with family. Because in 10 years, when my son is 10 summers, when my son is 19, he'll probably go somewhere.
He may not want to go with us anymore. He'll
probably go somewhere over to school, university. He may probably find a nice young lady, and he'll be like, "Yeah, Dad, I'll talk to you later. I got plans with my girlfriend or my future wife or whoever it is." Right? So
I'm not ready for that.
And I used to be all about like, okay, do we have the money set aside? Do we have the budget? Does it make sense? And maybe this time around, as I go forward, it's less about that and more about like, what's more important to us? Spending time with family or working harder to earn more dollars?
The extra dollars. Yeah, that's interesting.
That's really what it comes down to.
My dad really enjoyed nice things. And he really dressed well. He bought things that he wanted to have, and he enjoyed a good meal, and he would pay for it. He was frugal in some ways, but when it came to his experiences, he traveled really well. Those things were really important to him. And I feel like I'm like him in that way. I like to dress well. I like to travel well. I really enjoy good experiences. And I think that now, knowing that you don't know how much time you have, I think there's a place for budgeting and being smart and all those things. And I think that's important. But I also think that you're not taking any of it with you.
That's right.
So enjoy your life and make as much time as you can for those that matter most.
I agree. I definitely agree.
Yeah. Yeah. Be there for your people. I think that's the thing that's sticking with me too.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Well, I guess this podcast is a little bit different than what we typically do, but given, at the time of recording this, it's January 19th, and my dad passed away on January 2nd, and Peter's dad passed away in the end of October 2025. So we're still processing, and we're still sort of figuring out our place in the world now without our fathers and with these new responsibilities that are coming. And so we thought, this is real life. And instead of trying to pretend that everything is fine and normal, that we'd be really honest about where we are and what we're going through. And in hopes that if you are too, or you know someone who is, that we're here for you, we're here for each other. And this is a very human experience, and there's no right way to do it. But we thought this would make sense for today, given how we feel. So I hope that's okay with you. Grief doesn't come with a roadmap. It isn't linear, it isn't tidy, and it certainly isn't the same for everyone. What we're learning slowly and imperfectly is that grief can exist alongside love and laughter, purpose, and even hope. And we can miss our dads deeply while still choosing to move forward. We can feel broken and strong at the same time. If this episode resonated with you, please know that you're not alone. Whether your grief is fresh or something you've carried quietly for years, your feelings are valid and your journey is your own. Thank you so much for holding space for this conversation with us and for being here. We're sending you so much love, and we're sending love to anyone walking through loss, especially the kind that changes you forever. Until next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks for listening to Live Saranghae with us, Peter and Andrea. If you've enjoyed this episode, leave us a review. Your ratings and reviews help more people like you find our show. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and share this podcast with someone you think would love it. Until next time, love yourself, love one another, and love the world.